You wake up tired, not because your body is weak, but because your mind is crowded. 1,000 thoughts, 100 tabs open, everyone pulling your attention, notifications, messages, noise, and in that storm, your mission is drowned. Your goals get buried under distraction. Your discipline suffocates under dopamine, and you wonder, why do I feel stuck? Why can't I build momentum? The answer is brutal, but simple. You've forgotten how to stay focused. Not focused for 5 minutes. Not focused until you get bored. Not focused when it's convenient. I'm talking about ruthless, sustained, weaponized focus. The kind of focus that builds empires, shatters limitations, rewires identity. The kind of focus that Napoleon Hill preached, not as a soft suggestion, but as a law of power. You see, the most dangerous man in any room is not the strongest. He's the one whose mind doesn't wander, the one who doesn't chase 1,000 goals, the one who chooses one thing and burns everything else. That man is rare, that man is feared, and that man is what you must become. But let's start at the root. Why can't most men focus? Because they've been trained to be addicts, addicted to novelty, addicted to reaction, addicted to stimulation. Every beep, every buzz, every scroll rewards the brain with cheap dopamine. And the mind, like a muscle, adapts. It becomes lazy. It forgets how to go deep. It forgets how to sustain attention. It forgets how to lock in. You are not a machine. You are a mind, and your mind is your kingdom. If you don't control it, someone else will, and they already are. Social media owns your decisions. Endless messages own your hours. Meaningless notifications own your mornings. And in that war for attention, your dreams are casualties. Napoleon Hill said, "Lack of persistence is one of the major causes of failure." It is a weakness common to the majority of men, but persistence without focus is motion without direction. It's speed without a target. You don't need more effort, you need focused, directed, intentional force, and that begins now. This video is not about hacks, it's not about tips, it's about transformation. I'm going to take you through the psychology, the warfare, the rituals, and the rewiring that will return your mind to what it was built for. Clarity, direction, power. You're going to reclaim your focus, and with it, your life. Let's talk about the enemy, distraction. Distraction isn't random, it's engineered. Every platform, every device, every piece of content is designed to hijack your attention. Why? Because your attention is currency. Whoever controls it controls you, so you think you're in charge, but you're not. You're reacting, not creating. You're responding, not directing, and that reaction is costing you everything. It's costing you deep work, real relationships, physical progress, mental peace, vision, strategy, self-respect. Because every time you break focus, you break momentum, and every time you break momentum, you send a message to your brain: we don't finish things here. That's why you feel scattered. Not because you're lazy, but because your integrity has been compromised. Not externally, internally. And the only way back is through discipline. Ruthless, focused, locked-in discipline. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. It's the foundation of all success. A single target, a dominant aim. A major definite purpose backed by desire, decision, and discipline. Not 5 goals, not a vague dream, one mission. And when that mission is clear, distraction dies. But clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from deciding. You decide what matters. You decide what gets cut. You decide who gets access. And once you decide, you never look back. That's the formula. That's the standard. Let's go deeper. Focus isn't a feeling. It's a structure, a system. If your environment is chaotic, your mind will follow. You must design your life for concentration. That means removing access. That means deleting apps. That means waking up before the noise. That means saying no to meetings, calls, requests that don't move the mission. You want to stay focused? Change your inputs, because your attention is shaped by what surrounds you. If your world is full of junk, your mind will reflect that. But if your environment is intentional, your energy becomes magnetic. Your execution becomes automatic. But let's get raw. You don't just need external structure. You need internal identity. You need to become the kind of man who finishes what he starts. The kind of man who doesn't check his phone when he's building. The kind of man who says, I'll finish this even if it's boring, even if it's painful, even if no one's watching. That's who you're becoming. A man who is no longer ruled by distraction. A man who doesn't seek entertainment, but progress. Who doesn't need stimulation, but strategy. Hill said, the ladder of success is never crowded at the top. Why? Because most men quit halfway. They lose focus. They get pulled sideways. But not you. You're climbing differently now. You're moving like a machine. Quiet, strategic, lethal. And the key to maintaining that movement is rituals. Not motivation, rituals. Morning discipline, focused sprints, deep work hours, no distractions, phone off, doors closed, full immersion. That's how you rewire the brain. That's how you rebuild trust. That's how you create flow. Flow is the state where time disappears, doubt disappears, distraction disappears, and all that remains is execution. Flow is not luck, it's earned. It's trained, it's protected. And you protect it by guarding your attention like it's sacred, because it is. You no longer owe the world your availability. You owe the mission your obsession. Let people wonder where you went. Let them say, you've changed. Let them criticize your absence. You're not here to be reachable. You're here to be legendary, and legends don't check every notification. This is what Hill meant by self-control. It's not about repression. It's about possession. Owning your time, owning your mind, owning your moves. And when you live that way, nothing can stop you. Not because life gets easier, but because you've become unshakable. Let's be tactical now. You want to stay focused? Step 1. Decide the mission. One goal, one aim, one direction. Step 2. Cut the noise. Everything that doesn't align, delete. Step 3. Build the structure, daily blocks, rituals, protected focus time. Step 4. Train the identity. Every day, affirm who you are. Speak it, prove it, repeat it. Step 5. Execute. No debate, no delay, just action. And when the distractions show up, and they will, you don't negotiate, you smile. Because now you understand, every distraction is a test. Every temptation is a signal. It's not trying to break you, it's showing you where your edge is. And you love the edge, because the edge is where you grow. This is the new law. What doesn't build must be cut. That includes people, platforms, habits, thoughts. You are either building or bleeding. There is no middle ground. You are no longer the man who wanders, who hesitates, who lets minutes become hours and hours become days. You are the man who locks in, who cuts deep, who stays in the pocket while the world screams for your attention. You've stopped chasing focus. You've become focus. And that identity, that discipline, that silence, that's your new weapon. Distraction isn't the enemy. It's the evidence. The evidence that your mind hasn't been fully claimed. Not yet. Because when a man has claimed his mind, when he's built an identity around focus, precision, and silence, distraction becomes irrelevant. It shows up, yes, but it doesn't stay. Why? Because he's chosen a different operating system, one of relentless clarity. That's the mindset of a man who cannot be shaken. This is the beginning of your next level, where you don't just try to stay focused, you become the kind of man who can't be broken by noise, who can't be seduced by comfort, who doesn't flinch when the pull of distraction rises. Because now you're built different. You've installed something most will never even attempt to build. A mindset of unshakable focus. Let's make it clear. The most dangerous man alive is not the loud one, not the angry one, not even the rich one. It's the man who's locked in, the man who sees the world offer comfort and chooses discipline, the man who watches opportunities fly by because they don't align with the mission. He's not distracted, he's dialed in, ruthless, silent, lethal. That kind of man isn't born. He's built, brick by brick, battle by battle, decision by decision. And that building begins when you stop trying to escape distraction and start mastering your inner world, because distraction isn't out there. It's in here, in your lack of identity, in your unresolved weakness, in your failure to decide what matters and destroy what doesn't. Napoleon Hill understood this. He didn't write about discipline as a side effect. He described it as essential. He taught that definiteness of purpose, applied through concentration of effort, is what separates the powerful from the lost. And now you get it. Now you feel it. The truth that your power lives where your focus stays. So how do you build a focus mindset so strong that nothing can shake it? First, you decide what you stand for, not what you want, what you will and will not tolerate. You build a code, a rule set. You define your identity. I am the man who executes. I am the man who finishes. I am the man who says no even when it hurts. Second, you repeat that identity daily, out loud, written, felt, over and over until your nervous system accepts it as fact. Not theory, fact. Because the subconscious doesn't care what's true. It cares what's repeated with emotion. You repeat weakness, you become weak. You repeat discipline, you become dangerous. Third, you link your identity to your actions. There is no separation now. If you miss your focus window, you broke the code. If you entertain distractions, you betrayed the mission. That's how tight this gets. That's how personal it must become. Because if you don't make it sacred, you will always make exceptions. Let's talk about resistance. The moment you try to go deep, your brain will resist. It will scream for a break. It will whisper that it's too hard, too much, too soon. That voice, that's your test. Not to argue with, not to negotiate with, to dominate. You don't reason with weakness. You override it with action. You now understand that focus is war. Every day a battlefield, and most men are losing. They have no armor, no weapons, no plan. They walk into their day defenseless. And by noon, they've given away their mind, their time, their potential. Not because life attacked, but because they never fortified. You are not most men. You wake up and prepare, not for ease, for war. You structure your day like a soldier structures formation, hour by hour, task by task. Every action must pass the test. Does this build the mission? If not, cut it. You've adopted a new standard. If it steals focus, it steals future, and nothing steals your future anymore. Not comfort, not small talk, not endless scrolling, not unearned access. You are no longer accessible to the irrelevant. You are not available for average. This is your weapon now, selective energy. Not every problem is yours. Not every conversation is yours. Not every trend is yours. You are focused. That makes you rare. That makes you elite. And that makes you dangerous to a distracted world. People will notice. They'll ask, why are you so serious? Why don't you respond? Why did you disappear? You'll smile, because they don't understand what it takes to build something permanent, to shatter mediocrity, to walk through fire daily and come out cleaner, sharper, deadlier. You are walking through that fire right now. Every time you say no to comfort, yes to structure, no to reaction, yes to results, you're proving to yourself who you are. And that proof becomes confidence, not hype, not noise, evidence. Hill spoke of faith backed by action, but in your case, action becomes the proof that reinforces faith. You're not hoping anymore, you're moving, and that movement becomes belief, that belief becomes standard, and that standard becomes identity. Let's be tactical. You want to stay unshakable in your focus. Step 1, Build your morning like a fortress. No inputs, no apps, no voices but your own. Step 2. Schedule deep work, non-negotiable, no meetings, no messages, full lock-in. Step 3. Review daily, not emotionally, tactically. What worked? What stole focus? Cut. Step 4. Protect sleep, protect food, protect your body. Weak physiology equals weak focus. Step 5. Say no, more often, to people, opportunities and invitations that don't feed the mission, and if you slip, and you will, you don't collapse. You correct, instantly, without shame, without delay, because that's what warriors do. They don't seek perfection, they seek alignment, and you are a warrior now, not because of your words, but because of your discipline. This is the new identity. You are no longer pulled, you are driven. You've begun to build the mindset, the identity, the code. But there's one element that can destroy all of it in a single moment: your reaction. One interruption, one emotional trigger, one unexpected comment, and the focus you spent hours building collapses. This is where most men lose, not in the structure, but in the emotion. Not in the plan, but in the moment. Because they never learned the law. Focus is fragile and emotion is a thief. To stay focused, you must master your reaction, because your environment will never be perfect. The world will never shut up. Distractions won't disappear. But your power is not in controlling the external. It's in commanding the internal. You can't stop the noise, but you can stop your attention from chasing it. And that, my brother, is dominance. Napoleon Hill warned us, uncontrolled emotion is the enemy of decision, and indecision is the enemy of progress. Read that again. Your ability to make clean, fast, effective decisions requires a mind not infected by impulse. When emotion leads, distraction wins. When reaction leads, execution dies. So how do you kill reaction? You replace it with response. Controlled, strategic, grounded. You feel the trigger, but you pause. You feel the pull, but you zoom out. You feel the rage, but you breathe. That pause? That's where power lives. That second of stillness. That's where kings are made. Not in the noise. In the space between. Let's get real. You've spent years reacting to everything, to people, to failures, to messages, to emotions. Your focus wasn't broken because you were lazy. It was hijacked by your own lack of inner control. But that ends here. You're done being emotionally available to anything that doesn't serve the mission. This is now your default setting. Observe before you act. That's how warriors move. That's how assassins move. Not rushed, not loud, calculated. Cold, clear. You no longer let the environment dictate your energy. You dictate the environment by maintaining your center, your internal equilibrium, your grounded presence. Let's break it down. You get interrupted mid-task. You don't snap, you don't spiral, you calmly redirect. You lose a deal, a client, a moment. You don't collapse, you extract the lesson. You pivot, you keep momentum. Someone mocks your work, questions your intensity, doubts your vision. You don't explain. You double down. That's your new standard. No emotional debt, only strategic action. Napoleon Hill said, you have absolute control over only one thing, your thoughts. But those thoughts produce emotion, and emotion, when untrained, produces reaction. And reaction, it kills everything you're building. So you must train, daily, relentlessly. The way you train your body, you now train your calm. How? Through adversity, through resistance. You put yourself in high-pressure situations. You embrace the discomfort. You build rituals that expose you to stress, cold showers, deep work blocks, high-intensity discipline windows. These aren't productivity hacks. They're psychological warfare, and every time you complete them, you prove control. You build restraint. You reinforce the truth. I don't respond to emotion. I respond to mission. Let me say that again so it burns. You do not respond to emotion. You respond to mission. This is why most men will never stay focused, because they worship their feelings. They wait to feel motivated. They wait to feel calm. They wait to feel ready. You don't wait. You act regardless, ruthlessly, repeatedly, until the mind obeys, until emotion submits. You've already felt the shift. You don't panic when plans break. You don't need applause to stay consistent. You don't fall apart when things get hard, because you've removed the virus of reactivity, and replaced it with command. That's what leaders do. That's what execution demands. Now let's go tactical. How do you maintain this internal control throughout the day? Step 1. Pre-frame your day. Before the world touches you, you touch your mind. You speak your identity. You write your plan. You visualize composure. You command the system. Step 2. Create mental triggers. When stress hits, you don't react. You use a phrase, a breath, a pause, something simple. I don't fold. Stay locked. Breathe. One command. One redirect. Step 3. Review reactions. Every night, audit. Where did you lose your frame? Where did emotion win? You don't shame it. You study it. You fix the breach. You rebuild the code. Step 4. Cut the sources. If someone drains your mental state, limit access. If a platform spikes your reaction, delete it. If a habit feeds chaos, kill it. This is war. You don't negotiate with thieves. You eliminate them. Because here's the truth. You will never stay focused if you keep giving your energy to things that do not matter. Your life is now a fortress. Your time is now a currency. Your energy is now a weapon. And weapons must be aimed, not scattered. When people ask, how do you stay focused? You'll know. It's not just discipline, it's self-control. It's the relentless refusal to react to anything that doesn't serve the ultimate mission. It's full internal authority. And that authority, it radiates. You walk into rooms differently now. Your silence commands attention. Your posture communicates calm. Your eyes say, I see everything, I chase nothing. That's not ego. That's self-command. That's the reward of killing reactivity. Napoleon Hill wrote that concentration of effort and definiteness of decision are two of the most powerful principles of success. You've combined both. You've cut the noise, you've tightened the grip, and now you move through life like a man who cannot be pulled off path. So when life throws resistance, good. That's your training. When emotions spike, perfect. That's your arena. When people try to provoke, smile. You're built for this. You are no longer a man who reacts. You are a man who commands. You've built internal control. You've trained the pause. You've overridden reaction. But now you face a new level, one that destroys more men than distraction ever will. The illusion that you need to care about everything, every opinion, every update, every crisis that isn't yours. And if you don't kill this pattern, your focus will be buried in a grave of emotional clutter. Enter the discipline of strategic indifference, the ruthless art of choosing what deserves your energy and letting the rest die without a response. This is not apathy, it's precision. You are not a robot, you are a weapon, and a weapon cannot fire in every direction. It must lock in, select, eliminate. Most men fail here, not because they lack discipline, but because they still crave significance. They still want to be liked, followed, respected by people who offer them nothing. And that craving, it pulls them away from the mission, one opinion at a time, one scroll at a time, one argument at a time, death by 1,000 emotional leaks, but not you. You've arrived at a place where your peace, your time, your mind are no longer available to things that don't build your purpose. That's not coldness, that's alignment. It's the elite trait of men who win silently and powerfully because they have nothing to prove and no time to waste. Napoleon Hill spoke about the danger of drifting, but drifting doesn't start with laziness. It starts with emotional investment in the irrelevant. You check your messages too often. You care about who's watching. You entertain comments from the cheap seats, and every time you do, you split. Your focus, your edge gets dull. Your execution gets sloppy, so you must cut. Cut the need to respond. Cut the addiction to reaction. Cut the desire to be understood. Not everything needs your opinion. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not everyone gets access to your focus. You are now a fortress, and your gate is locked. Let's define this clearly. Strategic indifference is the active refusal to waste energy on the unessential. It's deciding moment by moment what earns your attention, and 90% of what crosses your path doesn't. The comment section, the trending topic, the gossip, the fake emergency, the drama, it's bait. And the disciplined man doesn't bite. This is where focus becomes impenetrable. When you learn to let things happen without letting them inside. When you witness chaos without internalizing it. When you hear the noise but remain unmoved. You want to stay focused. Then you must become indifferent to anything that doesn't serve your outcome. You must become a sniper, not a scattergun, precise, detached, deadly. Let's go tactical. Someone criticizes your work? Smile. Silence. Keep building. You lose a follower. Let them go. One less distraction. A trend goes viral. Not your business. Your business is your blueprint. Your business is your execution. Your business is your legacy. Napoleon Hill said that an educated man is not the one who has the most knowledge, but the one who can apply what he knows to achieve a definite purpose. And to apply that purpose, you must be ruthless with your focus. That means becoming strategically indifferent to everything that dilutes it. This discipline changes your energy. You stop rushing, you stop proving, you stop reacting, you move with certainty. With weight, with presence. People feel it. They sense that you're not emotionally scattered, that your energy is sealed, that your attention is earned, not assumed. That kind of presence builds influence, quiet influence, the kind that doesn't. Asked to be seen but cannot be ignored, you become rare. And rare men don't get pulled into every emotional storm, they stand. And the world learns to respect the silence of a man who doesn't flinch. Here's a truth most won't admit. Not every situation deserves a reaction, and most people don't deserve your attention. That's not arrogance, that's conservation, that's discipline, because your attention is fuel, and you're done wasting it. Let's break it down further. Strategic indifference means you do not respond to criticism unless it creates improvement. You do not engage in debates that change nothing. You do not comment on trends you're not building. You do not chase conversations that don't elevate you. You do not explain your absence to people who never helped your growth. This is how kings think. This is how warriors move. They don't explain, they don't justify, they don't dilute. They act. And the results explain everything. You are no longer available for emotional taxation. You are not a public service for people's curiosity. You are a builder, and builders don't pause to gossip. They work, they disappear, and they return with structures no one thought possible. Your absence from distraction will confuse them. Let it. Your silence will offend them. Let it. Your refusal to engage will be called arrogance. Let it. Because you know the truth. Your focus is your freedom. When you protect it, you rise. When you waste it, you rot. Napoleon Hill didn't beg for approval. He lived in obscurity for years while writing the book that would change millions. Do you think he spent his time justifying why he wasn't more social? No. He focused, he built, and when the world saw the result, it bowed. That's your play now. You don't explain the silence. You don't defend the distance. You don't negotiate the mission. You execute and let the silence build your legacy. So from this point forward, no wasted responses, no emotional entanglement, no draining conversations, no chasing opinions, only action, only alignment, only focused, strategic movement. You are no longer emotionally available. You are mission only now. You've silenced the noise. You've chosen what to ignore. But now comes a more direct attack, criticism, not random distraction, personal assault, from strangers, from friends, sometimes from the people you once respected. And if you don't learn how to handle this with precision, your focus will bleed every time someone has an opinion. This is the part that breaks most men. Not the grind, not the rejection, not the setbacks, but the words, the judgment, the fear of being seen and not approved. But you're not here for approval. You're here for domination. You're here to build something that lasts longer than noise. And you don't build legacy by answering everyone who doubts you. Napoleon Hill said, "The fear of criticism robs man of his initiative, destroys his power of imagination, limits his individuality, and takes away his self-reliance." That's not exaggeration, that's reality. Most men never execute not because they lack ability, but because they're afraid of being mocked, of failing in public, of standing alone. But let's be clear, if your focus is real, it will attract critics. If your discipline is real, it will expose their laziness. If your silence is powerful, it will threaten their chaos. That's the cost of separation. The moment you break the pattern, the system reacts. Not because you're wrong, but because you've stopped playing weak. So how do you respond? You don't. Not with words, not with arguments, not with explanations. You respond by building, quietly, ruthlessly, repeatedly. Criticism is not an invitation to explain, it's a signal to go deeper. Every time they mock your focus, you double it. Every time they question your grind, you sharpen it. Every time they expect you to defend your evolution, you outgrow their expectation. Because here's the truth, no one criticizes what they don't. You fear, your focus is terrifying. Your discipline is disruptive, your clarity is rare, and rarity always attracts attention. Some admire it, some attack it. Either way, you stay focused. Hill wrote that the path to success is narrow, and those who follow it will often walk alone. That solitude, that silence, that rejection, it's proof you're on the path. You were not built to be understood. You were built to execute. Let's go tactical. You post your results and someone mocks them. Good. That means they saw it. That means you're visible. That means they're watching while you're working. Stay silent. You disappear for weeks. Focused, locked in, unavailable. Someone says you've changed. Good. That means the old version is dead. That means growth is real. Stay silent. You break routine once and someone calls you a fraud. Good. That means they expected perfection, but you're not here for perfect. You're here for permanent. Stay silent. The disciplined man does not engage in debate with the undisciplined. He does not justify his rituals to the scattered. He does not respond to noise from those who have never touched structure. He simply builds. Criticism becomes fuel. Every comment becomes a rep. Every insult becomes a workout. Every doubt becomes proof, not to them, to yourself, because you're not proving anything to them. You're proving it to the voice inside you that used to quit when they talked. And now, that voice is silent, because results speak louder than opinions. You've developed a new lens. Criticism only matters if it builds, if it sharpens, if it reveals a real blind spot. Otherwise, it's trash, and you don't build with trash, you delete it. This is how elite men operate. They use what's useful. They discard what's not. They never waste focus on emotional. Wait, you're not above correction. You're beyond reaction. That's the difference. You study critique, but you never chase it. You dissect feedback, but you never beg for it. You welcome growth, but you never kneel for approval. And that difference? It keeps you lethal, because now you don't need to be right. You need to be aligned, and alignment doesn't come from applause. It comes from action. Hill said, "Tell the world what you intend to do, but first show it." You've reversed the order. You don't talk about what you'll build. You just build it. You don't promise change. You become it. You've stopped making announcements. You've started making impact. Let them gossip, let them mock, let them misinterpret, because while they talk, you're rising. And when the results come, they'll either ask how you did it, or pretend they always believed. Either way, you don't owe them a response. You owe yourself a legacy, and that legacy will never be built on their approval, only on your focus, only on your movement, only on your refusal to break under their voice. You are no longer afraid of criticism. You are fueled by it. You've handled criticism. You didn't flinch. You didn't explain. You stayed focused. But now we go deeper, not into what you say, but into what you no longer say. This is where power shifts from visible to invisible, from loud to lethal. This is where focus becomes presence, and that presence is built in silence. Most men speak because they're insecure. They explain their grind, they justify their vision. They narrate every step of their progress, because part of them is still asking for approval, but silence doesn't ask. Silence doesn't explain. Silence builds, and in the silence, you find the rawest form of discipline. Not the discipline to start, but the discipline to shut up and keep going. You're entering that space now, where your life is becoming so mission-driven that talking feels like a delay, where your results matter more than their reactions, where your energy is too sacred to be spent on performance. Napoleon Hill understood this. He called it concentration of effort. But concentration is not just about doing, it's about withholding. Withholding the urge to react, to announce, to seek credit. That's the hidden power behind real success, the ability to work relentlessly while saying absolutely nothing. This isn't silence born of fear, it's silence born of strategy. You've realized something most men never will, that speaking too soon weakens your edge, that showing your process before it's complete invites energy you didn't ask for, that explaining your vision to people who won't build with you is a waste of breath. Let's make this clear. Silence protects momentum. While others chase validation, you build velocity. While they comment, you create. While they explain, you execute. This doesn't mean you isolate. It means you become selective. It means you reserve your words for impact. You don't broadcast your steps. You leave footprints. That's the difference. People will ask where you've been. You won't answer. They'll say you've gone quiet. You won't respond. They'll wonder what you're building. You'll keep building. Because you know now, focus doesn't shout. It whispers through discipline. Let's talk about presence. The man who moves in silence carries weight, not because he forces it, but because he radiates it. People feel him walk into a room. He doesn't need to prove. His calm is louder than their volume. That calm, it comes from confidence. And that confidence, it comes from consistency in silence. Napoleon Hill didn't publish his process. He immersed in it. He didn't upload updates, he wrote in obscurity, and when his work was done, it spoke for him. You're doing the same. Because you've outgrown the need to narrate your journey. Now you let the results speak. This is your new law. If it doesn't produce results, it doesn't leave your mouth. Not your pain, not your plan, not your progress, just motion, quiet, clean, unstoppable. Let's get tactical. You're building something big. A body, a business, a new standard. Don't document it for applause. Document it for discipline, for yourself. Let the transformation happen in private. Let the reveal be undeniable. You wake up before sunrise. You train when no one sees. You say no to invitations that don't feed the mission. And you don't explain it, because explaining burns energy, and you've learned to protect that energy like currency. You've realized that most people aren't listening to understand. They're listening to judge, to compare, to dilute your fire, and you don't owe them access to the flame. You've made your world smaller, but tighter, quieter, but sharper. That's the upgrade. That's the edge. Let's break this into rules now. Rule 1, silence before the result. No previews, no leaks, just finished product. Rule 2, silence during resistance. When life hits, you don't vent, you move. Rule 3. Silence about your strategy. You don't share the blueprint, you build it. Rule 4. Silence as a filter. Those who value you won't need noise, they'll notice your pattern. Rule 5. Silence as self-respect. Your energy is no longer a public commodity. It's sacred. You've shifted. You used to want recognition. Now you want execution. You used to want applause. Now you want structure. You used to want response. Now you want results. And the more results you stack, the more silent you become, because you've tasted something they haven't. The satisfaction of building without needing anyone to clap. That's peace. That's focus. That's power. Hill said, any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. Silence is how you guard that thought, protect it, amplify it. If you talk too soon, you dilute the intensity. If you explain too often, you lose the fire. But if you stay silent, you let the idea mature, evolve, sharpen. Your silence is now your amplifier. People feel your absence more than they heard your words. That's impact. You've stopped telling them what you're going to do. You've started becoming it. And when they finally see the result, it will be too late to stop it. You are no longer here to be noticed. You are here to be felt. And that begins with silence. You've chosen silence. You've built structure. You've trained control. But what happens when everything collapses? When plans fail? When deadlines crash? When betrayal shows up? When you feel the world tightening around your chest and your focus starts to shake? That's the moment that separates boys from men. That's where most freeze. But you stay calm, not because pressure doesn't come, but because you've trained for it. Understand this: pressure doesn't break men, it reveals them. In pressure, your real programming surfaces, and if that programming is emotion, weakness, panic, you fold. But if that programming is presence, silence, action, you rise. Napoleon Hill understood this at the deepest level. He wrote about persistence, faith, and self-control, but under all of that lived one principle: emotional neutrality. The ability to move without flinching, to adjust without collapsing, to keep the eyes forward when everything around you is screaming for your attention. Because that's the true test of focus. Not how well you execute when things are smooth, but how composed you stay when the ground shakes. And brother, the ground will shake. That's not negative. That's preparation. It's guaranteed. The question is, what version of you shows up when it does? Let's dissect pressure. It's not just stress, it's a trigger. It awakens doubt. It awakens old programming. It exposes every part of you that still isn't locked in. And most men, when they feel it, try to run, escape, distract. But you've already outgrown escape. Now you face it, you stand in the fire, you feel the heat. And you breathe, you don't rush, you don't collapse, you observe, you analyze, you adjust. That pause is not weakness. It's power. It's the reset button. It's the signal to move with intention. Napoleon Hill said, deliberately seek the company of people who influence you to think and act for yourself. Pressure forces you to do the same, but internally, you isolate mentally, you go inward, you become your own influence. You remind yourself, I've trained for this, I was built for this, I'm still focused. Let's get real. Most people overreact under pressure because they've trained themselves to chase certainty. They want comfort, they want guarantees, but you're no longer a comfort seeker. You're a storm walker. You've chosen to live at the edge. And at the edge, pressure is the currency, the cost of greatness, the signal that you're still alive. And here's the key. You don't need pressure to disappear. You need to remain unmoved by it. That's what Stoics mastered. What Hill translated, what you now embody. The ability to feel the tension and not respond emotionally. To stay still when every part of you wants to panic. To execute with precision when your thoughts are chaotic. Let's go tactical. You walk into a high-stakes meeting. Plans are off. Energy's weird. People are nervous. What do? You don't match their panic. You slow your breathing. You lock your eyes. You speak last. You decide the energy of the room through your stillness. You miss a deadline. Your system breaks. Your structure fails. What do? You don't spiral. You document. You identify the breach. You adapt the protocol. You stay focused, not on the mistake, but on the correction. You're betrayed. A partner, a team member, a friend drops the ball. You feel it, but you don't. Rage, you assess, you cut what needs to be cut, you move forward quietly, efficiently, without emotional debt. This is the new way. Calm is your signature now, not because nothing affects you, but because nothing controls you. You've rewired your default. You no longer ask, why is this happening? You ask, what is required of me right now? That question replaces all panic. It replaces all noise. It activates your strategic mind. Napoleon Hill taught that every adversity contains the seed of an equivalent benefit. That seed is invisible to men who panic. But to the calm man, it appears. Because clarity lives in silence, and you've built silence into your core. You are no longer emotionally hijacked. You become a master of energy, yours, the rooms, the environments. You set the tone now. You decide the rhythm. That's what true presence is, not loudness, but undisturbed command. Let's anchor this with rules. Rule 1. When pressure rises, your volume drops. You become slower, quieter, sharper. Rule 2. Pressure is not a threat, it's a test, not of strength, but of system. Rule 3. Your emotions are allowed, your reactions are not. Feel everything, act on nothing until clear. Rule 4. You do not mirror chaos, you absorb it and transform it into clarity. Rule 5. Panic is a betrayal. You never let pressure pull you out of position. This level of mental posture will offend people. Because they're used to volatility, to noise, to weakness. Your stillness will feel cold. Let it. Your focus will feel arrogant. Let it. Your presence will feel unnatural. Let it. Because you're not building for their comfort. You're building for legacy. Hill said the man who cannot control himself can never control others. And that begins here, with your ability to maintain presence under pressure. You are now the man who operates clean in the storm, whose pulse slows when the world speeds up, who doesn't fold, who doesn't flinch, who moves with calculation when everyone else is chasing relief. You've become rare. You've become reliable. You've become focused under fire. You no longer fear pressure. You lead through it. You've mastered calm. You've moved through pressure. But now you face a deeper enemy. One that doesn't scream. One that doesn't push. One that doesn't distract with noise, but with weight. The weight of trying to carry what was never yours. Outcomes, people, reactions, the future, the past. All of it stacking on your shoulders. And every ounce of that mental load fractures your focus. Not because you're weak, but because you've been trained to control what cannot be controlled. Focus isn't just about what you do, it's about what you let go. And if you don't let go of what you can't influence, you'll burn your energy trying to change shadows. That's the quiet failure, the invisible leak, the man who does everything right, but carries too much inside. You can't build legacy if your hands are full of what was never yours to manage. Napoleon Hill taught that success requires definite plans, backed by persistence and clarity. But he also taught that obsession with results over which you have no immediate control leads to anxiety and doubt. The solution? Release. This isn't passivity. This is precision. You're not giving up. You're focusing down. You're cutting the fat. You're removing everything that doesn't fall inside the narrow circle of what you own. Your thoughts, your energy, your habits, your execution. Let's make it tactical. You cannot control what others say about you, how they interpret your silence, how fast results show up if they support your discipline, the timing of rewards. You can control what you build every day. how you structure your hours, what you consume, what you prioritize. This is focus at its highest form. Not obsession with outcome, but obsession with input. When you master input, outcome bends. Maybe not immediately, maybe not visibly, but inevitably. Because reality is a mirror of your dominant patterns, and your patterns are now disciplined. Letting go is not weakness, it's strategy. It means you're playing the long game, the real game, where you don't flinch when results delay, where you don't collapse when people walk away, where you don't spiral when recognition doesn't come. You've stopped trying to predict, you've started to prepare. That's what makes you lethal. The average man spends his day forecasting. You spend yours building. They imagine possibilities. You install protocols. They hope. You execute. That's the divide. And it starts with release. Let's go deeper. What about the past? The missed opportunities, the people you trusted, the time you wasted. That's emotional debris. And every time you revisit it, you reopen a door that steals clarity. You want to stay focused? Then forgive and forget with violence. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it no longer gets to live rent-free in your mind. You're not here to replay scenes. You're here to shoot new ones. Focus is forward, always. You mourn, you learn, you move. Same with people. You cannot control their loyalty, their vision, their standards. You can only model excellence, and if that excellence offends them, good. Let them exit. You're not here to convince. You're here to construct. Every moment you spend managing emotions that aren't yours is a betrayal of the man you're building. Napoleon Hill said that one of the greatest forms of freedom is freedom from fear. But fear grows strongest where control is weakest. You fear what you can't command. So stop pretending to command the uncontrollable, the outcome, the applause, the timing. Instead, command what's yours, today, now. You train your mind to respond with one question. Is this mine to carry? If not, drop it. Don't analyze, don't wrestle, drop it. That includes overthinking someone's reaction, overanalyzing performance, replaying conversations. You don't own that space. You don't rent it. You cut it. This is what Hill meant by self-discipline, not just the discipline to act, but the discipline to delete, the discipline to mentally cut anything that doesn't build your internal fortress. Because focus is not a gift. It's a construction. And every leak must be sealed. Let's break it down. Rule 1. If it's in the future, plan for it, but don't obsess over it. Rule 2. If it's in the past, extract the lesson, then bury it. Rule 3. If it's another person's reaction, let them own it. Rule 4. If it's outside your reach, remove it from your mind. Rule 5. If it's inside your control, dominate it. This is the quiet clarity most men never touch. They live in anxiety because they try to hold everything. You hold only what builds. That's the difference. When people ask how you stay so locked in, so unmoved, so clear, you won't answer with fluff. You'll say the truth. I don't waste energy managing what I can't move. And that discipline, it makes you unstoppable because you're no longer thinking about what could go wrong. You're too busy reinforcing what must go right. Napoleon Hill said that every man has the power to shape his destiny through thought, belief, and action. But you now understand, those tools are only powerful when you aim them, and you can't aim them while holding baggage. So you release, you stop dragging weights that aren't yours. You stop flinching at delays, you stop apologizing for cutting chaos, and you keep building, because the future doesn't belong to the man who chases everything. It belongs to the one who focuses only on what he can command. You are no longer burdened by the uncontrollable. You are free, and in that freedom, you stay focused. You've cut the noise. You've dropped what you can't control. Now comes the most elite form of focus: motion without announcement, execution without exposure, winning without warning. This is where your identity evolves from disciplined to dangerous. Because when You move in silence. Your work is invisible until the results are undeniable. Most men crave attention. They chase validation disguised as transparency. They overshare, not because they're honest, but because they're insecure. They document every step not to inspire, but to be seen. You've evolved. You don't need to be seen anymore. You need to build. Quietly, relentlessly, unstoppably. Napoleon Hill never broadcast his process. He went dark. He studied. He listened. He wrote in obscurity. And when his work emerged, it shifted the world. That's your model now. Not noise, not updates, just finished product. Just results so loud they silence everything else. Understand this. Real focus is invisible. It's not a show. It's not a slogan. It's not a quote. It's a pattern, a rhythm, a structure that doesn't need applause to move. Every minute you spend explaining is a minute stolen from execution. Every conversation about what you're about to do is energy drained from actually doing it. The man who moves in silence conserves fire. And that fire, when unleashed, burns 10 times hotter than the man who leaks his energy in every room. Let's be clear. You are not hiding. You are protecting your goals, your system, your energy. You are protecting your sacred rhythm from interference, from feedback that isn't earned, from opinions that weren't requested. You are no longer interested in being watched. You are obsessed with being effective. Your silence becomes the border between your process and their perception. Most people cannot handle your intensity. They want to soften it, so you don't give them the chance. You say nothing. You move forward. You let your transformation speak. Let's go tactical. You're on a new workout plan. You don't post about it. You train. You're building a business. You don't hint at it. You execute. You're mastering a new skill. You don't tweet progress. You practice. You're evolving. You don't announce it. You become it. This doesn't mean you don't celebrate wins. It means you don't depend on being seen to validate the work. That's the difference. You've stopped seeking applause. You've started seeking depth. Napoleon Hill taught that the subconscious mind responds to repetition of thought. But those thoughts are fragile at first. They need silence to grow. If you expose them too soon, you expose them to doubt, to criticism, to friction. But if you protect them, nurture them, obsess over them in private, they evolve into results. You're no longer tempted to post when it gets hard. You document privately, you review quietly, you adapt internally, and when it's time to show the world, you don't speak. You reveal. This is elite behavior. It requires emotional control, the ability to sit with the tension of being unseen, to resist the pull to share just for validation, to delay the gratification of attention until the mission is complete. Let's build the rule set. Rule 1. Silence before success. Until it's real, it's protected. Rule 2, silence through setbacks. No venting, only adapting. Rule 3, silence during evolution. People don't need updates. They'll feel the shift. Rule 4, silence in strategy. You don't explain your next move, you make it. Rule 5, silence as strength. If they don't know what you're building, they can't slow it down. You now understand that visibility is not the goal. Impact is. An impact is created when results appear from the shadows and force the world to pay attention. Your silence builds tension, anticipation, mystery. That mystery creates energy. That energy multiplies. Your presence, not because you said more, but because you withheld more. This is what scares people. Your discipline used to make them uncomfortable. Now your silence makes them nervous, because silence signals transformation. They know something's coming, but they can't name it. And that lack of access, that's your leverage. You are no longer narrating. You are delivering. You are no longer forecasting. You are fulfilling. You are no longer planning out loud. You are executing under radar. Napoleon Hill would call this concentration of effort on a major definite purpose, but effort without exposure, power without presentation, clarity without commentary. Your new standard is clean. Say nothing. Build everything. When someone asks, "What are you working on?" Smile, say, "You'll see," then return to the work. When someone pressures you to share progress, stay kind but firm. When it's ready, you'll know. When you feel the urge to explain your silence, remind yourself silence is strategy, not absence. You're no longer the man who leaks energy. You're the man who stores it until it explodes into dominance. And when it does, no one will ask where you've been. They'll only ask how you became what you are now. You are no longer chasing focus. You are living it. You've built silence. You've shut out the noise. You've learned to act without announcing. But none of that holds if your mind is untrained, because in silence, the only voice that echoes is your own. And if that voice is still filled with doubt, fear, hesitation, then silence turns from strength to sabotage. So now we go internal, to the place where real focus is either forged or fractured, your mind. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But belief doesn't grow in chaos. It grows in order, in repetition, in mental discipline. You don't stumble into focus. You train for it. You don't become unshakable by accident. You become it through command of thought. Your brain is not your enemy, but it is undisciplined. It will run to comfort. It will chase dopamine. It will default to old patterns unless you dominate it, unless you lead it, unless you structure it the same way you structure your day, your body, your finances. Focus starts in the mind, and now you take full control. Let's break it down. Mental training is not about feeling motivated. It's about rewiring, daily, aggressively, relentlessly. You're not just removing distraction from your environment. You're eliminating it from your internal dialogue. That means no more mental loops of failure, no more replays of past mistakes, no more future fantasies without present execution. You replace all that with clarity, with commands, with mental repetitions so clean they become automatic. Every morning now, you speak your standard. Not a quote, not a hope, a command. I finish what I start. I don't chase distractions. I move with precision. I live focused. That repetition rewires the subconscious, because your mind doesn't obey reality. It obeys what it hears. The most, you repeat these commands until your internal voice speaks them without request, until your nervous system moves with certainty when others freeze, until your thoughts align with your action and your action aligns with your legacy. Hill called this autosuggestion. You've now weaponized it, not for hype, for transformation. You don't wait to feel focused. You program it, you inject it, you declare it, and then you follow it with movement. That movement done in silence becomes your identity, because action done without external reward reshapes who you believe you are. It creates evidence. You said you'd do it. You did it. No one clapped. You moved anyway. That's belief. That's power. That's mental reprogramming through proof. You now treat your mind like a gym. Daily training, daily challenge, daily growth. No missed sessions, no skipped reps. If your thinking gets weak, you double down. You don't let thoughts drift. You capture them, refine them, redirect them. Let's go deeper. Mental training means eliminating mental clutter. If a thought doesn't build, it gets deleted. Sharpening your internal voice. No more maybe, only must. Using silence as a rehearsal room. Visualizing success so vividly it feels real. Ending every day with a mental audit. What distracted me? What thoughts slowed me? What do I cut tomorrow? You become your own mental architect, not once, every day. Because the man who masters thought masters outcome. Napoleon Hill warned that most men drift because they don't control their thinking. They let environment shape it, let people pollute it, let fear narrate it. But you're not that man, not anymore. You've sealed your mental borders. You've chosen what gets in, what stays, what gets reinforced. You no longer tolerate weak internal language. You no longer debate your decisions. You declare, then execute. That execution, done in silence, becomes a storm, not of noise, but of results. Results you don't announce. Results you don't justify. Results that arrive with such clarity that the world has no choice but to notice. They'll ask, where did this come from? And you'll know. It came from the reps they never saw, from the days you didn't post, from the nights you trained while they scrolled, from the silence you filled with movement. You don't chase success, you shape it with thought, belief, and behavior, all trained, all tracked, all executed without applause. Now let's go tactical. Your mental protocol, morning activation. Command your thoughts before the world does. Midday calibration, catch drift, recenter, speak your standard. Evening audit. What did I think today that doesn't serve me? Remove it. Mental visualization. See the result. Feel it. Move toward it. Like it already exists. Zero tolerance for loops. The second you hear old programming, cut it. Redirect. This mental system, done daily, makes your focus untouchable, because now your mind is no longer just reacting, it's driving, it's leading, it's aligned. And here's the elite layer. You do all of this in silence. No motivational videos, no crowds, no cheerleaders, just you in a room with nothing but the will to become. That solitude becomes sacred, because in that silence, your mind stops looking outward and begins building inward. And when the mind is built inward, it stops breaking outward. You become calm, clear, commanding. You no longer get thrown by mood. You don't ask for energy. You create it through mental discipline. Napoleon Hill would call this a definite purpose backed by faith and action. You now live that faith, not as feeling but as fact. Proven by the hours, by the silence, by the focus that no longer wavers, and now your results begin to echo. Not because you shouted, but because your work became impossible to ignore. You are no longer the man who tries to focus. You are the man who trained until focus became who he is. And now you move in silence, and the world moves around your results.